Namaskar and welcome to Newsnight. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. While the COVID vaccination drive is on in full swing with over 1 crore 17 lakh doses delivered, there have been reports of surge in cases of COVID in some parts of the country, particularly Kerala and Maharashtra. We will take a closer look at the developments. Prime Minister has said lessons from the pandemic must prepare us to handle future health crises in a better way. In other news, world's largest cricket stadium, Motera in Gujarat, is all set to host the third test between India and England. And science fiction turns to reality as we look at new visuals from NASA rover's landing on the red planet. All that and more. First, the headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says government has started focusing on wellness along with treatment and adopted an integrated approach from prevention to cure. Addressing budget webinar on health, Prime Minister says unprecedented increase in health budget this year is a symbol of our commitment to provide better healthcare facility to every citizen. India's fight against COVID-19 goes from strength to strength as over 1 crore 17 lakh vaccine doses delivered so far across the country. Vaccination rates slower in Punjab and Puducherry. More than 75% of health workers get first dose across 12 states and union territories. Private sector to play a greater role in vaccination in the future. Active COVID cases in India falls below 1.5 lakh. Rising cases in states like Maharashtra, Kerala, Punjab a cause of worry. After Pune night curfew announced in Balaghat, COVID-19 death toll crosses 5 lakh mark in United States. Prime Minister Narendra Modi gives mantra of self-awareness, self-confidence and selflessness to students of IIT Kharagpur. Addressing convocation of the Premier Institution through video conferencing, PM says there is a need to take IITs to the next level of institution of indigenous technology. Big success for the BJP in Gujarat local bodies polls. All 6 municipal corporations set to get a mayor from the party. PM Modi says it is heartening to see widespread support from all sections of society towards BJP. Party chief JP Nadda calls it a victory of the welfare schemes. Troubles rise for the TMC ahead of assembly elections in West Bengal. CBI questions party MP and Mamata Banerjee's nephew, Abhishek Banerjee's wife, in coal scam case. Big jolt for the KP Sharma Oli government in Nepal. Supreme Court reverses the decision of the Oli government to dissolve the parliament. And third test between India and England set to begin in Ahmedabad's Motera Stadium. Series for now is level 1-1. President Ramnath Kovind to inaugurate the world's largest cricket stadium, Motera. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said the world has noted the strength shown by India's health sector during the novel coronavirus pandemic, asserting that respect for India's healthcare has gone up globally. PM said budgetary allocations to the health sector shows centre's commitment towards this sector. Addressing a webinar, he emphasized how the pandemic has taught us a lesson to be prepared to fight similar challenges in the future that would require not just upgrading the health infrastructure of the nation, but also improve its reach to the remotest corner of the country.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed a webinar on effective implementation of budget provisions in the health sector via video conference. He said that Corona has taught us a lesson that we not only have to fight the epidemic today, but also to prepare the country for any such situation in future. And therefore, he added that it is equally necessary to strengthen every field related to healthcare. Prime Minister said that budget allocated to the health sector in this year's budget proposals is unprecedented and shows the government's commitment to provide better healthcare to every citizen.
भारत को स्वस्थ रखने के लिए हम 4 मोर्चों पर एक साथ काम कर रहे हैं। पहला मोर्चा है बीमारियों को रोकने, मतलब कि प्रिवेंशन ऑफ इलनेस और प्रमोशन ऑफ वेलनेस। दूसरा मोर्चा गरीब से गरीब को सस्ता और प्रभावी इलाज देने का है। आयुष्मान भारत योजना और प्रधानमंत्री जन औषधि केंद्र जैसी योजनाएं यही काम कर रही हैं। तीसरा मोर्चा है हेल्थ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर और हेल्थ केयर प्रोफेशनल्स की क्वांटिटी और क्वालिटी में बढ़ोतरी करना। चौथा मोर्चा है समस्याओं से पार पाने के लिए मिशन मोड पर, फोकस तौर पर और समय सीमा में हमें काम करना।
Prime Minister added that government's emphasis is not only on investment in healthcare, but also to expand the access to healthcare in far-flung areas of the country. He stressed that it should be ensured that these investments not only improve health, but also increase the employment opportunities. He said that the world now clearly appreciates the strength and resilience shown by India's health sector, owing to its demonstration of its experience and talent during the corona pandemic.
क्या भारत ये सपना देख सकता है कि दुनिया को जिस जिस आधुनिक मेडिकल इक्विपमेंट की आवश्यकता है वो कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव कैसे बने, भारत ग्लोबल सप्लायर कैसे बने और एफोर्डेबल व्यवस्था होगी, सस्टेनेबल व्यवस्था होगी, यूजर फ्रेंडली टेक्नोलॉजी होगी। मैं पक्का मानता हूं दुनिया की नजर भारत की तरफ जाएगी और हेल्थ सेक्टर में जरूर जाएगी।
Prime Minister added that we have to ensure that people of the country, whether they are the poorest of the poor, even if they live in remote areas, receive the best possible treatment. He urged the enhanced use of modern technology in health sector to achieve this goal.
दवाओं और मेडिकल डिवाइसेस के रॉ मटेरियल, इसके लिए देश पर निर्भरता हमारी इंडस्ट्री के लिए भी विदेशों पर गुजारा करना कितना बुरा अनुभव हम देख चुके हैं, ये सही नहीं है। इसलिए गरीबों को सस्ती दवाएं और उपकरण देने में भी ये बहुत बड़ी कठिनाई पैदा करते हैं। हमें इसका रास्ता खोजना ही होगा। भारत को हमें इन क्षेत्रों में आत्मनिर्भर बनाना ही होगा। इसके लिए 4 विशेष योजनाएं इन दिनों की गई हैं।
Prime Minister stressed that this is an opportune moment to take the accessibility and affordability of the health sector to its next level. He added that Digital Health Mission would help the common man to get effective treatment as per their convenience. Bureau Report, DD India.
Now, while the active COVID cases in the country have fallen below 1.5 lakhs, there is a surge recorded in fresh cases in some parts of the country, particularly in Maharashtra, Kerala, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and Punjab. Health Ministry is closely monitoring the situation in these states. There hasn't been any direct correlation, though, between the spike in cases and the new strains of virus that have been found in the country. Meanwhile, vaccine delivery is going on in full swing. Over 1 crore 17 lakh doses have been delivered so far. Here's more.
Industrial town of Ludhiana, another ordinary day. But what catches attention is people going around in groups without wearing masks. This when a surge in COVID cases has been recorded in Punjab. In Amritsar alone, 30 to 35 new cases are being recorded every day.
पिछले 2-3 दिनों में जो हमारे केसेस हैं वो बढ़े हैं। पहले हमारे 10 से नीचे केस आ रहे थे। अब 2-3 दिन में हमारे केस तकरीबन 30-35 केस हुए हैं। उसमें कुछ स्कूल के जो हमारे टीचर्स हैं वो पॉजिटिव आए हैं और जहाँ लोगों जो फंक्शन कर रहे थे लोग वहाँ से वो केस पॉजिटिव मिले हैं जिन्होंने कोई सोशल गैदरिंग की है।
Maharashtra is recording the highest number of fresh COVID cases in the country. This is Vashim. MOS Sanjay Rathore is visiting Pohra Devi temple. A huge crowd can be seen gathered at the site without following COVID precautions. Police had to resort to lathi charge to disperse the crowd.
ये जो हुआ घटना ये ठीक बात नहीं है। हर मंत्री ने अभी आगे से ध्यान रखना चाहिए कि इस तरीके से उनकी वजह से कोई गर्दी ना जमे और सारे लोगों ने, सारे पक्ष के लोगों ने कोरोना को मिलके ही मात देना चाहिए।
Maharashtra continues to report the highest daily new cases at 5,210. It is followed by Kerala with 2,212, while Tamil Nadu reported 449 new cases. Night curfew was announced in the border district of Balaghat on the border of Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh. Maharashtra Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray called an emergency meeting with the BMC officials to discuss the situation. There is no direct relation between the recent surge in COVID-19 cases in Maharashtra and some other states with the mutant virus strains N440K and E484Q of COVID-19. DG ICMR has clarified that these two virus strains have been detected in other countries as well and are not specific to India. Moreover, they were found earlier in some states of our country. If we look at the COVID data from across the country's active caseload has fallen below 1.5 lakh. It stands at 1,47,306. The present active caseload now consists of 1.34% of India's total positive cases. 10,584 new daily cases have been recorded in the last 24 hours, whereas 13,255 recoveries were registered in the last 24 hours. It has led to a net decline of 2,749 cases in the total active caseload. India's daily positivity rate remains below 3%. India's cumulative recoveries stand at 1.07 crore. The recovery rate is 97.22%. The gap between total recovered cases and the active cases is constantly rising and stands at 1,565,359. Health Ministry has said Kerala and Maharashtra account for 75% of the active cases in the country. New strains of virus from the UK, South Africa and Brazil have been traced in our country. 187 cases of UK variant have been tracked so far.
कुछ राज्य हैं जहां की हमने हाल में ही केंद्रीय टीमें भेजी हैं और कुछ जगह भेज रहे हैं। ये वो राज्य हैं जहां की प्रतिदिन आने वाले नए केसेस में हमने कुछ सर्ज देखी है। इसमें महाराष्ट्र है, उसी तरीके से केरल में हालांकि इंक्रीमेंटल डिक्लाइन है, लेकिन एब्सोल्यूट नंबर्स में केरल में अभी भी प्रतिदिन आने वाले केसेस की मात्रा अधिक है, इसलिए केरल भी हमारे लिए चिंता का विषय है। पंजाब में आप देखेंगे कि प्रतिदिन आने वाले नए केस लगातार बढ़ रहे हैं, तो इसलिए पंजाब चिंता का विषय है।
6 लोगों में साउथ अफ्रीकन वेरिएंट पाया गया आज तक और एक व्यक्ति में ब्राजीलियन स्ट्रेन को पाया गया। सो द बिग पिक्चर इज द फॉलोइंग: 187 UK variant strains based on the data, systematic from across the country, 10 laboratories, systematic effort, high quality effort. So yes, there is E484 variant in Maharashtra and there is N440 variant in Maharashtra and also in Kerala and also in Telangana. Reporting only detection does not lead to any attribution for a phenomenon on the ground. Because to relate the occurrence of a virus mutation to change in disease pattern, other information, epidemiological information and clinical information has to be linked to these mutants.
The vaccination drive is underway in full swing. Over 1,17 lakh doses have been delivered so far.
टोटल वैक्सीनेशन 1,54,54,788 हैं। इसमें 68% हेल्थ केयर वर्कर्स को पहली डोज दी जा चुकी है और 62% हेल्थ केयर वर्कर्स को दूसरी डोज दी जा चुकी है। जब हम कहते हैं 62%, इसका मतलब वो है कि जो एलिजिबल हेल्थ वर्कर्स हैं, जो एलिजिबल हो गए, यानी जिनको पहली डोज दिए हुए 4 सप्ताह का समय बीत गया, वो जो यूनिवर्स है उसके 62% को दूसरी डोज दी जा चुकी है। फ्रंट लाइन वर्कर्स में 41% से कुछ अधिक लोगों को पहली डोज देश भर में दी जा चुकी है।
The government has said in the coming days, private sector can also play an important role to boost the vaccination drive. Bureau Report, DD India.
You're watching Newsnight, and that brings us to the issue in focus, tackling the fresh rise in COVID cases. That's the issue in focus this evening. Two special medical experts are joining me in this program. Dr. Rajesh Malhotra, Director, Trauma Center, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and Lieutenant General Dr. V. Ravishankar, CEO and Medical Director, Lilavati Hospital, Mumbai. Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to the program. Dr. Ravishankar, if I can come to you first. Maharashtra comparatively has a significant percentage of active COVID cases in the country, sir. Also, pockets where the new cases are emerging at a greater pace is also located. They're also located in Maharashtra. Your understanding, sir, of gentlemen, we'll come to you in just a moment, but we take you live to the United Nations debate on climate and security. Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar is speaking at the moment.
Daum Shanti, Antariksham Shanti, Prithvi Shanti, Apa Shanti, Aushadhaya Shanti, Vanaspatiya Shanti, Vishwadeva Shanti, Brahmam Shanti. This means let there be balance in space, the sky, the earth, the water. Let there be growth in plants, in the trees. Let there be grace in God and bliss in the soul. Let there be balance in everything, and let such peace be with every one of us. From this Vedic message, it is very clear that environment belongs to all living beings. So it needs protection by all and for the welfare of all. Climate change is a defining issue of our time. Without drastic actions by us collectively, adapting to its impacts in the future may well be impossible, but definitely will not be more impossible, but definitely more difficult and costlier. The global community has addressed the issue of climate change through various mechanisms, central to which is the UNFCCC and the Paris Agreement negotiated under this framework. Together they present a delicately balanced global democratic effort to take climate action in a nationally determined manner based on certain fundamental agreed principles, the foremost among which is common but differentiated responsibility and respective capabilities, and which must underline all future discussions on climate change. Therefore, before we start discussing the issue of securitization of climate, we need to ensure that we are not building a parallel climate track where these mechanisms and principles are brushed aside or not duly considered. Mr. President, the 2019 IPCC Special Report Climate Change and the Land says that extreme weather and climatic or slow onset events may lead to increased displacements, disrupted food chains, threatened livelihoods, and could contribute to exacerbated stresses for conflict. Even the best science available claims that climate change only exacerbates conflict and is not a reason for conflict and does not threaten peace and security. There is no common, widely accepted methodology for assessing the links between climate change, conflict, and fragility. Fragility and climate impact are highly context-specific. In addition, both peace and conflict assessments, as well as vulnerability assessments, face significant challenges when it comes to the data availability, as was mentioned earlier, and impact measurement. Mr. President, in number of fragile contexts where governments are struggling to provide basic services due to capacity and legitimacy issues, instances of chronic emergency conditions and famine risks are largely driven by continued political violence, disrupting harvests and aid supplies rather than by climate factors alone. This underscores the idea that a complete picture of climate vulnerability only emerges with an assessment of states' capacity to be the primary responder to interrelated environmental, social, economic, and security dynamics. The nationally determined contributions are largely about mitigation commitments and adaptation requirements that collectively determine whether the countries will achieve the Paris goal of limiting the global average temperature increase to well below 2 degrees. Parties are nowhere required to communicate on climate-related security risk in their NDCs. Moreover, an in-depth analysis of the NDCs submitted in the first round has shown that member states see climate change as a risk to the well-being of their citizens and to some degree their economies, but never as a risk to social stability, national sovereignty, or the functioning of the state. Of the 16 countries that have submitted their updated NDCs to the UNFCCC Secretariat by October 2020, none have framed climate change as a risk to peace and stability. The idea of climate change and actions should not be to move the climate ambition goal post-2050. It is important for countries to fulfill their pre-2020 commitment. That is the beginning. Climate action needs to go hand in hand with the framework for financial, technical, and capacity building support to countries that need it. While climate change does not directly or inherently cause violent conflict, its interaction with other social, political, and economic factors can nonetheless exacerbate drivers of conflict and fragility and have negative impacts on peace, stability, and security. It is for precisely this reason that developing country NDCs included information on adaptation activities and the need for finance, technology development and transfer, capacity building and transparency. However, while the commitment by developed countries to jointly mobilize $100 billion per year by 2020 in support of climate action in developing countries has been central to the climate accords since 2009, the delivery on this commitment has been elusive. Mr. President, the impacts of climate change and its associated security risks have important gender dimensions. Women and girls experience the interplay between climate change and the peace and security in direct and profound ways. Since women are often providers of the food, water, and energy for their families, they are likely to face increased challenges in accessing resources due to climate change. As the primary caregivers, women are often living on the front lines of climate change and has distinct knowledge and experience to contribute to building effective adaptation strategies. There is an urgent need to promote and support the meaningful participation of women and marginalized groups in the national level climate change policy and planning processes. Mr. President, India has taken significant steps to fight climate change, and we have delivered on our commitments. Our mitigation strategies have emphasized on clean and efficient energy systems, safe, smart, and sustainable green mass urban transport network, planned afforestation, integrating green thinking across all production and consumption sectors. India is only country on track among the G20 nations to meet its climate change mitigation commitments. We are not only meeting our Paris Agreement's targets, but will exceed them. India currently has the fastest growing solar energy program in the world. We have expanded access to clean cooking fuel to over 80 million households. This is among the largest clean energy drives globally. Our recent commitment of installing 450 gigawatts of renewable energy, elimination of single-use plastic, 100% railway electrification, and creation of an additional carbon sink by restoring 26 million hectares of degraded land, among other measures, have only added to our climate ambitions. India strongly believes that the only way to generate persistent, long-term, and positive action in the climate change domain is through partnerships by undertaking collective action to make a lasting and sustainable impact. The International Solar Alliance and the Coalition for Disaster Resilience Infrastructure are two such initiatives by India that have been launched to addressing the challenges of climate change and adaptation. Mr. President, there is a significant opportunity for countries to integrate low carbon development in their COVID-19 rescue and recovery measures and long-term mitigation strategies that are scheduled to be announced for the reconvened 26th session of COP in 2021. To better integrate climate change adaptation and peace building, we would suggest the building of robust governance structure at the local, national, and regional levels to address climate and fragility-related risks. This not only improves public perception of government legitimacy, but also shores up capacity of states to address climate risks before they become fragile. Donor countries should provide greater financial, technological, and capacity-building assistance to help fragile states to put in place necessary adaptation and mitigation strategies to combat the impact of climate change. Mahatma Gandhi once said that there is enough for everybody's need, but not for everybody's greed. Let us then make the transition to a more climate-friendly lifestyle by adapting to a low-carbon development pathway based on our needs and not on our greed. Let us view climate change as a wake-up call and an opportunity to strengthen multilateralism and seek equitable and inclusive solutions to live a greener, cleaner, and sustainable world for our future generations. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhak bhavet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Means, may all sentinel beings be at peace. May no one suffer from illness. May all see what is auspicious. May no one suffer. Peace, 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 peace. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
That was Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar participating in the UNSC debate on climate and security. In his intervention, he spoke about the interlinkages between the issue of climate change and geopolitical, socio-economic realities of different regions of the world. On his part, he also spoke about the key targets and achievement of India towards climate change issue, whether it is commitment towards renewable energy or completely ending the use of single-use plastic. Those were some of the key highlights that he mentioned in his intervention. Let us return to the issue in focus, tackling the fresh rise in COVID cases in India. Two medical experts, Dr. Rajesh Malhotra and Dr. V. Ravishankar, continue to be with us. Thank you to our doctors for staying with us. Dr. Ravishankar, I was asking you this question about your assessment, sir, of the factors that you think are contributing to the fresh rise in cases, particularly in states like Maharashtra.
Yeah, good evening. There is no doubt that the surge in cases has happened, and it is quite recent, and it's in the last few days. However, I must assure all of you that it is really not related to any mutant strain, because these mutant strains were seen earlier also. There are reports that as early as March and September last year, we have seen these strains not only in India in some states, but abroad also. The reason why there is a sudden surge in cases is because the lockdown has been released in a calibrated manner. However, with the trains starting, restaurants opening, cinema theaters, religious places and weddings, there has been a public perception that the vaccine having come, they can let their hair down and consider it as a foolproof protection, which is not the case. People have stopped using masks, they stopped the social distancing. Just yesterday, we had a meeting with the municipal commissioner who addressed all the CEOs of the hospital as well as the government hospitals. And some of the very pertinent things that he brought out was, number one, that all the COVID care centers which we had shut down have to be revived. Asymptomatic cases are not to be admitted. The reason being, we need to conserve all our beds, both in the ICU and ward, for the people who are really sick. I must tell you that one good thing also which has happened, although there is a surge of cases, the case fatality rate has not gone up. Our own hospital ICU admissions are not so alarming. Yes, the ward admissions definitely have increased. The other thing the municipal commissioner said is, the COVID report by the laboratory positive reports will not be given to the patient. It will be given to the BMC so-called war centers. Actually, the Maharashtra has done it very beautifully. The wards have got the so-called war rooms, and all bed allotment is done through them. So the positive report goes to the ward room, the doctor speaks to our hospital, and they send the cases. This is how the whole system is working. And the surge in cases, I hope and pray that it gets arrested very soon.
Right. Dr. Malhotra, as Dr. Ravi Shankar mentioned, and also earlier in the day, Health Ministry spoke about how there's no connection between the new strains of virus and the surge in cases. Then do we attribute it to the perception that may be doing rounds that the number of cases is going down, the vaccination process is also on, so perhaps it's okay to let the guards down, and that perhaps is leading to the rise in cases where they are?
You are absolutely right. There are several factors, and one of them, of course, most important being that many people think that the COVID is over. The pandemic is over. For others, it is over because they think that they got the disease, so they are now immunized, which is not correct. It is not a lasting immunity, may not be lasting immunity. And for others, they think it's over because they got vaccinated. So I think everybody has been contributing, but what worrisome aspect I have noticed in these states is also that, from 4 to 5% positivity, the rates have gone even up to, anything from 19 or even 22%. And a rising positivity of the tests means that not enough tests are being done. With these rise in the number of cases, there has to be an enhanced testing. There has to be enhanced contact tracing and isolation. The rules of the game have not really changed. But I think a cursory look will tell that the number of testing has gone down a little bit in some of these states, and at a time when it should have been increased. Of course, the resumption of the local trains, the weddings, the functions, and the COVID inappropriate behavior, if there's anything such, means that people are not following the COVID appropriate behavior, are the factors which are really contributing. As far as the mutant strains are concerned, even before these the so-called the Brazilian and South African and the British mutants became common. The initial strain which had appeared soon was replaced by 614G, the D614. So the virus has a tendency to mutate. That doesn't necessarily mean that it has got an immune escape phenomenon or it has started infecting people who were already infected. It is just infecting, the COVID is infecting people who are still not protected, and they are the ones who need to follow the COVID appropriate behavior. I think these are the factors which have led to the rise.
Right. And Dr. Ravi Shankar, the good thing is the pace at which vaccine doses are being delivered. Over 1 crore 17 lakh doses have been delivered so far. To what extent does it present a sort of protective layer to the population from this sort of surge in COVID cases at some points?
Yeah, see, the thing is, so far we have started only the phase 1 and phase 2.
Yes.
And I think the cut lies in the phase 3. The earlier we start, the better it is. That's the only way that we're able to do mass vaccination and immunization. The good thing in Maharashtra is all the private hospitals have been roped in. So we have started today in Lilavati, and we've already got 500 doses. We used 50% of that in the first day itself. So I guess that is the way to first completely vaccinate the healthcare workers, the frontline workers, and as soon as possible, get into vaccinating those above 50 years with comorbidities, above 60 years, and those below 50 years also who've got comorbidities. I think that's the only way that we can have a control over this pandemic.
Right. And Dr. Malhotra, finally, would you like to reiterate the point for the administration? The test, track, treat strategy was central in controlling the COVID spread. And for the people, COVID appropriate behavior, wearing masks, social distancing, hand hygiene, those remain critical still while the vaccination drive is on.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think you have just hit the nail on the head. Those are the key points. We still have to be followed. The disease hasn't changed at all. That hasn't mutated. The disease hasn't mutated. Only the virus has, and we still don't know whether it has any impact. But I think the COVID itself is bad enough, and we have to use all the strategies we have to beat it.
Right there, Dr. Malhotra, Dr. Ravi Shankar, thanks very much for joining us with your inputs in our discussion. Thanks very much. And addressing the students of IIT Kharagpur, Prime Minister Narendra Modi hailed them to lead the technology revolution in the country, build startups to transform lives of masses. In his message during the convocation, Prime Minister said that through self-awareness, self-confidence and selflessness, difficult situations can be overcome in life and academics.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the 66th convocation of IIT Kharagpur through a video on Tuesday. Prime Minister said this day is not only important to the parents and teachers of the IIT, but also for the new India, as the students represent the aspiration of 130 crore people. Prime Minister said the need of the day is to work while anticipating the needs of the future to make innovations for tomorrow.
इस कैंपस से निकलकर आपको सिर्फ अपना नया जीवन ही स्टार्ट नहीं करना है, बल्कि आपको देश के करोड़ों लोगों के जीवन में बदलाव लाने वाले स्वयं में एक स्टार्टअप भी बनना है। इसलिए ये जो डिग्री, ये जो मेडल आपके हाथ में है, वो एक तरह से करोड़ों आशाओं का आकांक्षा पत्र है, जिन्हें आपको पूरा करना है। आप वर्तमान पर नजर रखते हुए फ्यूचर को भी एंटीसिपेट करें।
Prime Minister urged the students to find solutions which can improve and save the lives of millions and can save the country's resources. He asked the students to adopt the mantra of self-free to overcome their self-doubts and obstacles in the future.
Self-awareness, self-confidence और जो सबसे बड़ी ताकत होती है वो है सेल्फलेसनेस। आप अपने सामर्थ्य को पहचान कर आगे बढ़े, पूरे आत्मविश्वास से आगे बढ़े और निस्वार्थ भाव से आगे बढ़े।
Prime Minister also said that IITs need to be taken to the next level from Indian Institute of Technology to institutes of indigenous technologies to meet the changing demands and aspirations of New India in the 21st century. He added, India needs technology that minimizes damage to the environment, is durable and user-friendly.
आप ये जानते हैं कि ऐसे समय में जब दुनिया क्लाइमेट चेंज की चुनौतियों से जूझ रही है, भारत ने इंटरनेशनल सोलर अलायंस आईसा का विचार दुनिया के सामने रखा और इसे मूर्त रूप दिया। आज दुनिया के अनेक देश भारत द्वारा शुरू किए गए इस अभियान से जुड़ रहे हैं। अब हम पर दायित्व है कि हम इस अभियान को और आगे ले जाएं। क्या हम दुनिया को सस्ती, एफोर्डेबल, एनवायरमेंट फ्रेंडली टेक्नोलॉजी दे सकते हैं जो भारत की इस पहल को और आगे ले जाए, भारत की पहचान को और मजबूत करें।
He also urged the institute to work fast on futuristic solutions in health technology. He said technology has to be developed to provide for personal healthcare equipments in India which are affordable and accurate.
सरकार ने मैप और जियो स्पेशल डेटा को कंट्रोल से मुक्त कर दिया है। इस कदम से टेक स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम को बहुत मजबूती मिलेगी। इस कदम से आत्मनिर्भर भारत का अभियान भी और तेज होगा। इस कदम से देश के युवा, स्टार्टअप्स और इनोवेटर्स को नई आजादी मिलेगी।
Prime Minister urged the institute to compile 75 major innovations made by the institute to coincide with the 75th year of India's independence and make them reach the country and the world. He said these inspirations would give a new boost to the country and inspire confidence. DD India.
Some other news now. Bharatiya Janata Party has swept 6 out of 6 municipal corporation seats in Gujarat. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said results of the municipal elections across the state clearly show the unwavering faith of people that they have towards the politics of development and good governance.
The election results of municipal corporations in Gujarat has once again stamped the popularity of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and unflinching faith of the voters towards politics of development adopted by his government. Bharatiya Janata Party has registered landslide victories at all 6 municipal corporations in Gujarat. Polling for 576 seats was held on February 21 and BJP has registered victory at more than 80% seats. On the other hand, Congress has emerged as a top loser and it has been restricted to only 7 to 8% seats in this election. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has expressed happiness over BJP's victory in polls. In a tweet, Prime Minister said that today's win across Gujarat is very special. For a party that is serving in a state for over 2 decades, to record such a phenomenal win is noteworthy. It is heartening to see widespread support from all sections of society, particularly the youth of Gujarat towards BJP. While Home Minister Amit Shah also expressed happiness over BJP's victory.
मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में जो विकास की यात्रा चली थी, उसको भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने आज भी चालू रखा है और आज जो परिणाम आए हैं वो गुजरात में अब तक के सबसे अच्छे परिणामों में से एक परिणाम है। जितनी भी सीटें भारतीय जनता पार्टी लड़ी, जितनी भी सीटें हैं, उसमें लगभग 85% सीटें भारतीय जनता पार्टी जीती हैं और कांग्रेस पार्टी बुरी तरह से इस चुनाव में हारी है।
While expressing gratitude to the people of the state for their support, BJP National President JP Nadda said that BJP's historic win in Gujarat is a victory of people's unwavering faith in public welfare and development-oriented politics of Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji. I thank the people of the state for their continued faith in BJP. BJP is set to have its mayors in Ahmedabad, Surat, Bhavnagar, Jamnagar, Rajkot and Vadodara. The poll results clearly prove that the people have once again reposed their faith in BJP. Bureau Report, DD India.
Meanwhile, troubles rise for the TMC ahead of assembly elections in West Bengal. CBI has questioned party MP and Mamata Banerjee's nephew, Abhishek Banerjee's wife, in the coal scam case. More in this report.
Problems seem to be piling up for West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee and her nephew Abhishek Banerjee as the assembly polls come closer. A Central Bureau of Investigation team on Tuesday questioned Trinamool Congress leader Abhishek Banerjee's wife Rujira Banerjee for an hour at their home in Kolkata in the alleged illegal coal mining scam. Ahead of the CBI team's arrival, West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee had paid a visit to her nephew Abhishek's home at Harish Mukherjee Road in Kolkata. TMC has alleged that the probe and questioning has gathered pace just before the assembly elections to the state. BJP has shot back alleging large-scale corruption in the TMC ranks.
आप लोग साफ सुथरा है तो साफ सुथरा निकलेंगे, लेकिन डल में काला है आप लोग और इसीलिए छुपाने का आप लोग कोशिश कर रहे हैं, इसीलिए इस आरोप भारतीय जनता पार्टी को बेमतलब इसमें खींचने का कोशिश कर रहे हैं। सीबीआई एक अलग इंस्टीट्यूशन है, इसके साथ भारतीय जनता पार्टी का ना कोई लेना देना है, ना कोई संपर्क है।
On Monday, CBI also questioned Rujira's sister Menka Gambhir in the matter. CBI on Sunday served Rujira and her sister Menka Gambhir summons to question them in the coal pilferage case. On Monday, CBI examined Gambhir at her home in Kolkata, where she spoke to the CBI officers on her own for nearly 3 hours. The agency had registered an FIR last November mentioning 6 persons, prime suspect Anup Maji alias Lala, and 5 officials of a nationalized mining company. On November 28, 2020, CBI carried out a search operation across 4 states, West Bengal, Bihar, Jharkhand and Uttar Pradesh. It is alleged that Anup Maji alias Lala, the alleged kingpin of the scam, is involved in illegal mining and theft of coal from leasehold mines of ECL. Bureau Report, DD India.
And hitting a sharp jibe at Congress leader Rahul Gandhi, BJP chief JP Nadda attacked the divide and rule politics of the Congress party. Nadda tweeted and he says, I quote, a few days back he was in the northeast spewing venom against the western part of India. Today in the south he is spewing venom against the north. Divide and rule politics won't work, Rahul Gandhi ji. People have rejected this politics. See what happened in Gujarat. Some international news and updates. Nepal Supreme Court has nullified the decisions by Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli to dissolve the parliament. On December 20th, Nepali President Bidya Devi Bhandari had dissolved the parliament at the request of Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli's cabinet. However, the constitutional experts had said the constitution does not allow a majority prime minister to recommend House dissolution. His colleagues in opposition political parties had blamed Oli for derailing a stable government. On January 6, Nepal's top court had begun hearing on the petitions on the matter, challenging Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli's decision to dissolve the parliament. Oli had pushed for a fresh mandate after the ruling Nepal Communist Party accused him of sidelining his party in the government decisions and appointments. The US space agency NASA released the first audio from Mars, a faint crackling recording of a gust of wind captured by the Perseverance rover. NASA also released the first video of the last week's landing of the rover, which is on a mission to search for signs of past life on the red planet. The video clip shows deployment of the parachute and rover's touchdown on the surface of the red planet.
NASA released video and audio on Monday captured by Mars rover Perseverance during its landing on the surface of the red planet last week. A roughly 3-minute video shows the final minutes of Perseverance's entry, descent and landing, plus an audio file depicting the sounds of wind gusting on the surface of Mars. The spacecraft's self-guided descent and landing during a complex series of maneuvers that NASA dubbed as the 7 minutes of terror stands as the most elaborate and challenging feat in the annals of robotic spaceflight.
Gives me goosebumps every time I see it. Just amazing. I hope everybody kept their hands and arms inside the vehicle at all times while it was in motion.
The footage was captured last Thursday from cameras mounted at different angles of the Perseverance's landing craft.
This is it. This is Mars. We're here in our place that we're going to be exploring over the next months and coming years.
The 6-wheeled vehicle came to rest about 2 kilometers from towering cliffs at the foot of a remnant fan-shaped river delta etched into a corner of the crater billions of years ago and considered a prime spot for geobiological study on Mars. Perseverance sailed through space for nearly 7 months, covering 293 million miles, 472 million kilometers, that is, before piercing the Martian atmosphere at 12,000 miles per hour, that is, 19,000 kilometers per hour, to begin its descent to the planet's surface. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Fascinating visuals from the red planet. Back home, President Ramnath Kovind addressed third convocation ceremony of Central University of Gujarat. President expressed his happiness over girls' enthusiastic participation in higher education. He said out of 21 students, 13 girl students have been awarded medals. Highlighting the key features of the new education policy, President said it aims to make India a knowledge superpower.
बदलते विश्व में अपने दायित्वों के प्रति विद्यार्थियों में जागरूकता उत्पन्न करना भी नई शिक्षा प्रणाली का एक प्रमुख उद्देश्य है। शिक्षण संस्थानों द्वारा यह प्रयास किया जाना है कि हमारे विद्यार्थी आधुनिक विश्व समुदाय के समर्थ नागरिक बने। उच्च शिक्षण संस्थानों द्वारा लोकहित और नैतिकता के महत्व पर भी विशेष बल दिए जाने की आवश्यकता है। मानवीय संवेदनाओं व नैतिकता पर आधारित भारतीय जीवन मूल्यों पर विशेष बल देकर ही हम अपने विश्वविद्यालयों तथा पाश्चात्य विचारों पर आधारित विदेशी विश्वविद्यालयों व शिक्षण संस्थानों के बीच में अंतर कर सकेंगे।
President Kovind said there is a need to promote research and innovation at local levels to realize the dream of Atmanirbhar Bharat. He also said benefits of knowledge should reach the common man. Moving on, the third test match between India and England is just a day away. Virat Kohli-led India's cricket team is taking on Joe Root's England in an all-important pink ball test match at the Motera Sardar Patel Stadium. The penultimate test match in the 4-match bilateral series is crucial as both the host and the visitor are vying for a knockout spot in the World Test Championship finale. Apart from this, the third test match is said to be the first ICC event at the world's largest cricket stadium, that's Motera. Here's more.
World's largest cricket stadium, Ahmedabad's Motera Cricket Stadium, is all set to host the third test match between India and England. The day and night test match will also be different this time as the teams will be playing with the pink ball. So far, only 15 day-night tests have been conducted across the world, in which fast bowlers have been dominating. But this time, the mathematics can change because the pitch can be kept as a turning point. Talking about India, the team tied the England team with the strength of their spinners in the last match. This will also be Ishant Sharma's 100th test match, and he would certainly want to make it a memorable one. Rohit Sharma will again be expected to bang in the ball, while Ajinkya Rahane, Cheteshwar Pujara and Virat Kohli will have to back the team as the strongest pillars and will be expected to end big innings with their bat. Talking about the England side, the team will be here with full force with their strong pace attack, having players like Stuart Broad, Jofra Archer, James Anderson, Chris Woakes and Ben Stokes, which can pose a big trouble. The captain is in form and looks all set to play big innings, while Ben Stokes' all-round incarnation is going to be the first international match since 2014. A combination of both bounce and turn can be seen. The dew factor will also show its role when the sea movement will be more and the reverse will be less. Tapas Bhattacharya's report, Sports Desk, DD India.
And after an exciting two-test series in Chennai between India and England, the action now shifts to Ahmedabad in the state of Gujarat. The third test is all set to be a pink ball day-night test series and will take place at the newly built Motera Stadium. Sardar Patel Stadium has already hosted knockouts of the Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy last month. Is ready to host international cricket for the very first time. The players of both sides couldn't stop raving about the cricket stadium with the highest capacity for audiences in the world. So with talks going around, let us take a look at the special history and key facts about this very special stadium.
When we talk about cricket stadiums around the globe, we talk about Lord's for its history, the MCG for its grandeur. But have you ever wondered where is the largest cricket stadium? Yes, it's here right in Gujarat's Motera. The Motera Cricket Stadium has become the largest cricket stadium in the globe.
Cricket is not just a game in India, but a religion where cricketers are demigods and fans their devout followers. And thus the question arises, shouldn't this cricket-crazy country deserve to have the largest cricket stadium in the world? Well, why not? Behold the magnificent and colossal stadium in Motera that has put Ahmedabad right at the center of the cricketing world. Located near the banks of Sabarmati River, Motera Stadium sprawls over 63 acres of land and has a seating capacity of more than 110,000, leaving Australia's Melbourne Cricket Ground behind, which can accommodate 90,000 spectators. The plan to reconstruct the refurbished stadium started in 2015 when Gujarat Cricket Association, under the visionary leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, decided to reconstruct the stadium and make it the largest cricket stadium in the world. This is in addition to the outdoor practice pitches and 2 practice grounds with small pavilion area. It also boasts of a clubhouse, an indoor cricket academy with a dormitory and an Olympic-sized swimming pool. The stadium houses 14 dressing rooms with associated facilities. Interestingly, no other stadium has this facility.
Total cost of project is 750 crore, but as far as BCCI is concerned, BCCI has a infrastructure policy. So as per that infrastructure policy, BCCI disbursed 100 crore rupees to this stadium, and right now we are at comfortable position.
The academies would give a huge boost to Gujarat's potential in sports other than cricket. The new look Sardar Patel Stadium in Motera's newly installed LED floodlights will eliminate shadows, making it easier to spot the aerial balls. With all its grandeur and facilities, Motera has already made it to the history books. But come Wednesday, the newly constructed stadium will be instrumental in setting yet another history.
The World Health Organization has slammed wealthy countries for not only hogging COVID vaccines, but in doing so, also hindering the pathway for poorer nations to get hold of the vaccines. Meanwhile, India continues to lead as an example for equitable vaccine distribution, particularly among developing countries. The vaccine Maitri mission is recording new milestones every day.
World Health Organization Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus has said that deals between some high-income countries and manufacturers of COVID-19 vaccines are undermining its COVAX initiative by reducing the number of doses it can purchase. He said that though there is a fund crunch, but the real issue is availability of the vaccine.
Currently, some high-income countries are entering contracts with vaccine manufacturers that undermine the deals that COVAX has in place and reduce the number of doses COVAX can buy. Even if we have the funds, we can only deliver vaccines to poorer countries if high-income countries cooperate in respecting the deals COVAX has done and the new deals it's doing. This is not a matter of charity. It's a matter of epidemiology. Unless we end the pandemic everywhere, we will not end it anywhere.
The WHO chief stressed that the longer the virus spreads, the more opportunities there are for changes, and that could make the vaccine less effective. In contrast, when it comes to extending an helping hand, India has been second to none. And this is all the more evident with vaccine Maitri. US State Department has also acknowledged that US partnership with India has strengthened the global response to COVID-19.
India's pharmaceutical sector is strong and well established and has long played a central role in manufacturing life-saving vaccines for global use. We are pleased that the US pharmaceutical industry has been coordinating with Indian companies since the beginning of this pandemic. We are partnering to strengthen the global response to COVID-19 on issues ranging from addressing infectious disease outbreaks to strengthening health systems to securing global supply chains.
Indian vaccine initiative has been recognized as a true Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam moment for the entire global community. Efforts of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to imbibe the true meaning of the Sanskrit phrase has seen India launch Vaccine Maitri, an initiative that has seen many of the Indian neighbors and friendly nations receive supplies of COVID vaccines produced in India. Millions of doses have been transported to many nations which were in dire need of the vaccine on priority basis. DD India.
And with that, we conclude this edition of Newsnight. Namaskar.